Today's hearing addresses a very important humanitarian crisis, the more than 50 million children orphaned on the continent of Africa. Indeed, to put this in perspective, as one of our witnesses today, Smtih has pointed out, with such a number, the orphans of Africa, if grouped together in a single country, would be the fourth largest country in all of Africa, after Nigeria, Ethiopia, Democratic Republic, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The factors contributing to this crisis are varied, starting with civil war and civil unrest, which have displaced millions, wars that have led to the deaths of parents and other adult relatives, leaving children to fend for themselves, or sometimes children who are separated from their parents in a mad flight for sanctuary, never learning if their moms or dads are alive or dead. They may never know if they are orphaned in reality or if both parents turn out to have survived and are alive in a refugee camp somewhere else. Such parents, too, agonize over what ever happened to their beloved children. Our children, other children, are indirect victims of the HIV/AIDS pandemic, which has wreaked such devastating havoc on the continent, or other diseases. They could have lost one or both parents to this or some other dreaded diseases, often being forced into the role of primary caretaker of younger siblings. Their childhood innocence is ended by the burdens of adult responsibility. As with many of the humanitarian crises that confront the continent, there is a big picture aspect to this one, and one which we as Congress certainly need to address. There are important strategic implications of so many children and adolescents left without moms or dads. We have all heard of the scourge of child soldiers, how orphan children are recruited and brutalized themselves into becoming remorseless killers. Terrorist groups such as the Lord's Resistance Army, under the rapturous warlord Joseph Kony, actively recruit child soldiers. Perhaps our State Department witness, Robert Jackson, the Honorable, with his vast depth of regional knowledge, may address that in his remarks today. And if humanitarian reasons are not enough to compel Congress to rally behind the efforts to address the issue of Africa's orphans by USAID and countless other charitable organizations, many of them faith-based, then strategic concerns and the effect that this has on the stability throughout the region should be a reason to sit up and take notice of this tragedy. But behind every statistic about an orphan child or children, behind the pie charts and graphs, there is also a portrait in miniature, a lonely child who is left without a mother or a father, perhaps dealing each night with the pangs of hunger, or just seeking a place where he or she can lay down their head in safety until the morning comes. That child awakes to forage and to fend for another day. Behind every statistic, there is a young boy or girl who has to deal with the sense of abandonment or with the trauma of having seen parents killed before his or her own eyes. There is a little soul, a young person whose inherent dignity has been scarred in a world itself wounded, where there is so much pain, suffering, and darkness. These children are in need of love and compassion, of simple needs being met. Those who find loving homes and families are truly the lucky ones. One remedy for this crisis is intercountry adoption, which sometimes brings children from Africa to our shores to provide them with loving homes. This is, of course, only a partial remedy, because for every child who is given a loving home, there are many more for whom there will never be such a refuge. At best, they may end up in an institutional orphanage, which is a topic fraught with controversy. While the best ones, again, often faith-based, help address the developmental and education needs of children, the worst may abet human trafficking. In some cases, such institutions do not even shelter orphans per se, but rather children are placed there by parents who think that their children will get a better education and nutrition than what they themselves can provide. Clearly, such institutions can never provide the type of love that a father and a mother, along with any siblings, can provide. One issue that will be addressed in our second panel today, then, is the role of intercountry adoption in helping address, or at least in part, the crisis of orphans. Some of the testimony will be critical to the role of our State Department's Office on Children's Issues in the Bureau of Consular Affairs. Such testimony needs to be heard, for we can and we must, all of us, do better. We will also hear about an adoption issue that has received a lot of attention on Capitol Hill and was the topic of a resolution authored by my good friend and colleague, Colin Peterson of Minnesota, which I'm happy to say was passed by the House of Representatives just a few weeks ago, after being marked up by our committee and then the full Foreign Affairs Committee. Last year, the DRC suspended the issuance of exit permits for Congolese children adopted by foreign parents, impacting hundreds of U.S. families. The suspension means that the Congolese children adopted by American parents simply cannot leave the country to go to their new homes, even though the parents have been officially declared the legal guardians under Congolese law. What's more, despite the exit permit suspension, Congolese courts have continued processing new adoptions, leading to a backlog of adopted children who are unable to leave the country. More than 800 American families are caught up in varying degrees of this adoption limbo, breaking hearts. This is a deplorable situation for these children and for their distraught families as well. Indeed, we will hear about this from one such family that has been impacted, as well as an advocate for families that, in like manner, have been impacted. Finally, I also want to say a word to those parents here today who have endured not only burdens that are financial, but ones that are primarily emotional, separated from the children they have voluntarily and lovingly welcomed into their lives. Your hardship and pain is deeply noted by my colleagues and I, as well as our staff members, many of whom have worked not only on passing Congressman Peterson's resolution, but have also promoted within our State Department and the government of the DRC some effective and durable remedies to these situations. Please continue to persevere. Don't give up hope. Both the executive branch and the legislative branch are firmly in your corner. I'd like to now yield to Karen Bass, the ranking member.